Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Frères, Heureux, a podcast where we rewatch the wonderful 90s sitcom Frasier and give it a new perspective. The perspective of two brothers. I am joined, as always, by my brother Euan.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
I'm drinking that water there.
I am.
Yeah. Right in the middle of our conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How rude. My name is Frasier, and between the two of us, we have watched Frasier countless times.
Yeah.
This is, I think, well into my second dozen, maybe, rewatch of the show.
Yeah, probably somewhere in the 20s.
We are back again with the next disc. We are on to disc 3 of season 1.
Yeah.
From Guess Who's Coming to Breakfast all the way through to And the Whimper Is.
Mm-hmm.
Another little bit of a mixed bag. I'm not sure if I would rate it quite as mixed as the previous one. I think it's a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a dip in quality in these episodes, frankly. Yeah.
See, I think I'd probably prefer this one to the last disc. But we'll see. We'll see. Go through. Let's go through and
the episodes.
We'll figure out what we like and what we don't like. So we start off with Guess Who's Coming to Breakfast. What an episode that we alluded to back
in the
a few weeks ago in the first episode, where Martin forms a relationship.
Yeah.
His first, well, technically second after Irene.
Yeah.
Through the looking glass. But his first sort of on-screen relationship with someone else, with Elaine from the building from Elliott Bay Towers. So the story starts with Frasier in his office, and there's a fantastic guest caller right off the bat with Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
a very young Elijah Wood. Playing the role of Ethan. Who's a very pretentious young man.
Yeah. Certainly some parallels to Frasier and Niles when they were kids.
Definitely. He claims to have, a 160 IQ or something.
Yeah. Very
high. And is complaining because he's getting bullied at school. And I'm only going into this in so much detail because I think I relate a little bit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
to when I was younger. I don't know about you. But
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
No interest in sports. Getting picked on.
Yeah, members of various chess clubs and AV clubs and whatever there was.
Yeah, chess club, definitely.
But Frasier basically gives him some half-assed advice that it'll get better, basically.
It's the only advice you can give someone in that position, really.
I suppose.
It's not an easy thing to fix, getting bullied.
But I think a little bit more convincing reinforcement from Frasier's behalf. He seems a bit uninterested in actually helping. But anyway, we start off with that. And moves on to Frasier talking about his date at home. He's got a date the following weekend, or one night that week or whatever.
Yeah.
And convinces Niles to take Martin out for drinks or for dinner or whatever, so that he has a night to himself. And we find out that Martin actually has a date as well
the next
that
day.
Week,
yeah,
the following day. So. As he said, one hand washes the other around here.
Yeah.
So they agree to do their little swapping on nights out during the week. But on the following morning from Martin's date, Elaine Morris from 1412. Is that right? Is that
something like that?
I can't remember. Downstairs
Martin's date
from Frasier walks into the kitchen with Martin early morning.
Yes.
And they are all shocked to see it.
They've clearly spent the night together.
Yep.
And Frasier is made very uncomfortable by this.
Very uncomfortable.
Cannot seem to get his foot out of his mouth.
Yep.
Making a lot of very funny innuendos about sticky buns and
Toad in the hole. Yeah, it's all very awkward. Yeah. But I think unlike some of the previous episodes, which are very sort of cringy and uncomfortable, this one does quite a good job of laughing at Frasier for being very uncomfortable. rather
the audience
than,
isn't made to feel uncomfortable alongside him.
yeah,
It's-
they're explicitly laughing at him,
yeah,
rather than being drawn into the discomfort with, you know, whoever it is on screen. So yeah, it eventually drives Elaine to leave this awkwardness from Frasier. And he goes on to do something incredibly silly and selfish.
yeah. Decides to loudly express his discomfort at the situation on the radio, knowing full well that Elaine is a fan of his show. I mean, this is brought on by a caller, kind of the same situation but opposite. Piper Laurie,
It's Piper Laurie
calls in as Marianne, who's a bit uncomfortable at the idea that her daughter has started seeing a man and the two of them are staying in her house, and is very uncomfortable that the two of them might be sleeping together in the guest room. Piper Laurie really has cornered the market as like the insane mother.
Yep.
I mean, after playing Margaret White in Carrie, and then she actually again appears in a later episode of Frasier. She plays Dr. Nora's mother in an episode in season 6.
Yeah, she does.
I think just her. She does so well as this kind of insane, controlling, completely demented mother figure. Frasier then kind of echoes it, saying like, "Oh, I also feel uncomfortable because my father slept with someone," and calls her out by name, and which is just so stupid and so inconsiderate
and just so selfish. You
of
know,
course,
it's this whole running theme of Frasier just thinking the whole world revolves around him, and everything relates to him in some way. It's not quite to the extent where he's obsessing over it or anything, but he just doesn't quite consider other people's feelings and how to behave. He takes it all. It's all part of his life.
Yeah.
So he can talk about it as he pleases. This obviously doesn't go down well with Martin.
No.
Who's a lot more grounded in reality.
Yeah.
And calls out Frasier for being so selfish and for using his personal life as a public story.
Yeah. Because sex is sacred.
Yeah.
It's between you and the person you're doing it to.
Exactly. Exactly. But Martin's from a different time. He's an older guy. It's a different generation of attitudes. And I think it's absolutely fair that he wants to keep it personal and not. To be honest, even people from our generation, I think I wouldn't want.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
My son, my family members talking about my personal life.
Yeah.
To the public.
We all have those friends that are a little bit too open about their lives, and it's just I don't want to hear about it, and I don't want to tell you about how I'm doing it.
If you want to be open about your own life, that's perfectly fine. You do you, but just don't bring me into it.
Yep.
So I think Martin's absolutely in the right, and he again jumps on the radio using the only format he can think of, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
He could have just gone and knocked on a door, but anyway,
could have done.
Uses his radio show again to try and convince Elaine to come over for dinner and have Martin. Well, I say have Martin make up to Frasier make up to her, and have Martin and her have a nice dinner together, which is it works in the end. Yeah, but there's other ways to do it. He could have just knocked on her door down the stairs and just done a simple apology over the radio. That
would have worked.
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of funny. It's kind of a decent episode. Yeah. Very middle of the road.
Yeah. Bit of a filler episode, I think.
Yeah. It doesn't really amount to anything either. I don't think Frasier learns anything from the episode.
No.
It's not something that he never does again.
Yeah.
There are instances of it before, and Elaine doesn't show up again. I don't remember anyway. So their relationship just kind of fizzles anyway between her and Martin. So it's just kind of there. It just kind of sits there as an episode. It doesn't really bring any kind of anything to the table.
Yeah.
So if we're going ahead with ratings, I'd give it a 2.
Give it a 2?
Give it 2 cups of coffee.
I'd give it a 3.
I think a 3.
I like bits of it certainly, but I don't know if it's it's just kind of nothing special. It's right down the middle for me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely leaves something to be desired. Although I will say it does introduce one of my favourite characters.
Yes.
Who are supporting characters. Yeah. Noel Shempsky.
Noel the Mole.
Noel the Mole, the token Trekkie, the token sci-fi nerd.
Yeah.
Who goes on a date with Roz. Roz is trying to expand her horizons and stop going for the what shall we say? The typical one night stand men who are not interested in a relationship, who are just interested in Roz as a physical lady and not
not in her personality.
Not in her personality thing. So she tries to do something a bit different and go for someone with a bit more intelligence and who actually who seems to care about her in a way. Maybe care about her a little bit too much.
Maybe a little.
After they make it clear that there will not be a relationship, Noel still seems to obsess over her for seasons to come. But it's a little bit, he plays this stereotypical nerd, but he's got some good one-liners.
Yeah, there are some funny jokes about
interactions, mostly at his expense,
of course.
But it's it's good fun. And other than that, there's not really anything stand out from the episode.
No, not really.
I don't know if you've got anything. We've already spoken about Elijah Wood. The guest
Elijah
stars
Wood.
are good.
There are
Elijah
some good,
Wood
so Elijah
Piper
Wood
Laurie.
and Piper Laurie, and there's also one in the middle. Not necessarily a very funny call in its own right. Al, who is calling in and complaining about how much he hates his voice, and there's kind of a joke about how he's just going on and on and on about how he doesn't like his voice, and it's there's a drone and whatever. And while he's doing it, Frasier and Roz have some kind of physical comedy where they're kind of trying to crack each other up through the glass without saying anything. Al is voiced by Henry Mancini, the film music composer. He did the theme from the Pink Panther and various other things, and he did Moon River, which was used in that episode. Presumably that's how he got involved in it.
Possibly, yeah. Frasier plays Moon River while trying to convince Elaine to come back for dinner during his apology speech on the radio. Plays in the background.
Yeah.
Well, it's middle of the road episodes. Nothing particularly bad about it, but nothing particularly good either. Next episode is good. I do enjoy the next episode.
Do you like the next episode?
Do you not?
No.
Oh, I do.
Going back and rewatching it, I went to put it on, and I realized that it's been quite a long time since I've watched this episode, because normally when I'm rewatching it, I will skip this episode because I hate watching it. It makes my skin crawl. I can't handle it.
There's one aspect,
so uncomfortable,
and I imagine it's the same aspect that makes you uncomfortable that I don't like. But everything else that surrounds it is so good and so funny that it brings the episode up. So we're talking about Can't Buy Me Love. Martin is putting together a charity event where, and I don't know if these kind of things happen in real life. I presume they do.
Bachelor auctions. I mean, there's a reference to them in other things. The Simpsons. I can't say I've heard of one actually happening in real life.
I've not seen it. Maybe we're just not attractive enough to be called for a bachelor auction.
Who knows? Maybe they'll want some podcast hosts. If anyone's listening and is organising a bachelor auction, and you're looking for two romantically attached,
very much not single. But yeah, so they're looking for celebrities to single celebrities to be part of this bachelor auction, and Martin, Frasier hilariously assumes that Martin is asking for him, but he's actually asking for Bulldog, who we know Martin is a huge fan of, but after feeling a little bit guilty, he does ask Frasier as well. So they go and. They're basically paraded out in front of a huge audience of, they say single ladies, so I presume it's very much a male-female bachelor auction. It's, it was mid-90s. They weren't quite as progressive back then. But they, yeah, so each player is paraded out in front of an audience. We get Frasier going out first, and he is bought by a lady named Christina, who is objectively very attractive.
Yes.
She, however, I don't know. I'll get back to that. So we have Christina who buys Frasier, and then we have, I think, Bulldog's up next.
Yeah, Bulldog's out immediately after Frasier.
And he comes back in and is immediately very defensive about the fact that, you know, though there's no
one's bidding anymore.
No one's bidding anymore. All the lads have been taken up already. Mm-hmm. And then Daphne sullenly walks in. And she was asked to shill and put a small bet forward, and it turns out it was the only bet for Bulldog, so she's the one to go on the date. And the final one that we see is and I don't actually know if it's an actual
the footballer.
It's the
no,
Seahawks.
it's not a real. I assumed it might have been, but no, it's not.
It's just another actor. Mm-hmm. Who goes out, obviously very stereotypically handsome man,
very big, very handsome
American
man.
Footballer, goes out and he comes back in and makes a joke. It's like, oh, the one that bought me had such crazed eyes. she was mad. And then Roz appears in the door saying she knows what she saw what she wanted and she got it.
Yeah.
Which is great. And Roz obviously following that track record of going for the typically handsome men,
yes,
and not much substance to them. So there we go. We have our. Well, unfortunately, we don't get to see much of Roz and her date, which is a shame because I think that would have been.
It could have been a very
fun
episode
to see. But we have Bulldog and Daphne, which is the source of much fun.
I really like that scene.
I love it. I think it brings the whole episode up for me. But first we have Christina, who comes for dinner with Frasier. He hosts it himself, and unfortunately she gets called away. She's a model and gets called away on an assignment, and rather selfishly drops off her teenage daughter, to Frasier, who obviously doesn't. Well, he does have kids of his own, but they don't live with him. Has no experience with teenagers.
Yeah.
And is just kind of left with this random teenage girl.
Yeah.
To entertain her for the evening, and yeah, I think this is probably the scene that you don't enjoy watching. It's
I just can't handle it.
It's awful. It is pretty awful. But upon rewatching it, I didn't hate it as much as I remember hating it.
Yeah.
This time, I think it shows a sort of almost vulnerability to Frasier, that he has sort of a soft spot for kids, and that he kind of cares for them regardless of who they are.
Yeah.
Even if they are taking advantage of him a little bit.
Yeah.
It turns out that she is telling many, many lies and trying to convince Frasier not to date her mother. And in the end, it turns out, yes, they were all lies. And she is actually a lovely woman.
Yes.
Who is, and she's not self-obsessed as the daughter claimed her to be, and she even gave the daughter one of her kidneys, and driving her back and forth. She has no free time because she's always taking her daughter to parties and things like that. And Frasier abruptly calls her out, and it blows up in his face.
It's just so uncomfortable seeing Frasier be so stupid.
It is.
Someone that's supposed to be a psychiatrist.
I know.
And can't even tell when someone is lying.
That
so
is one
blatantly.
Thing. But that was sort of what I come back to with the vulnerability. Is he's very caring towards the kids, and I think that's what he kind of takes the daughter, Renata, at her word.
Yeah, he's very trusting.
Rather than questioning her too much, and just kind of gets on with it. And he kind of sits her down and says, if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. It's just a shame that she is
not
lying
nice
through
person.
her teeth.
Yeah.
And just, what is it? She's annoyed at her mum because she wouldn't let her buy new clothes or something. I can't remember what it is.
Something.
Can't remember exactly. She wouldn't let her do something and was angry, so lied and ruined the date, basically. Which is a shame, because Christina seems like a lovely lady, and I think they would have got on well, but poor Frasier. But the real highlight, I think, for me for this episode is Daphne and Bulldog's date.
Yeah.
Which is...
It is very, very funny. Just see, you only see
great.
the tail end of the date.
So they've been out at the basketball.
Yeah, they've gone out for, I think Bulldog says they're going to go out for dinner and drinks and then go to see the basketball.
He's pulled out all the stops. He's put a lot of money into it.
They've got a limo. They've got champagne in the limo. They're both quite drunk, or Daphne at least is very drunk. And it leads to a lot of back and forth between the two of them. Daphne clearly has nothing but contempt for
she just calls him out on everything. His height, his boring personality, the fact that he was thinking about, or he was very clearly trying to get her drunk to, get somewhere with her.
Yep.
She just calls him out on everything. And then, intentionally or not,
gets him into a fight with some other guy until he gets dragged away and she's by herself in the limo.
They're stuck in traffic, and she starts yelling at someone using their horn too much in her typical very typical English fashion. Getting into it and yelling insults at the other driver, who then takes out his aggression on Bulldog, and she's left to sit and drink by herself. Which is just brilliant. I love it. I love Jane Leaves' performance here, and just the whole scene is great. So what I was going to say earlier is that Christina Harper, the actress who plays her, who I have not written down the name of, which was silly of me.
I do have Claire Stansfield.
Claire Stansfield, who is objectively very, very attractive. Also played in an episode of X-Files.
Yes, she was in the Jersey Devil.
She played the Jersey Devil, who is an urban legend, but is a very sort of a Neanderthal style woman who supposedly roams the woods of New Jersey. So I noted that because I thought it was quite funny, the contrast between playing a
definitely
very, very attractive model compared to a creature of the woods,
horrific monster,
which I thought was very funny. But I quite like the episode. I think on a rewatch it's not quite as awful as I'd hoped. It does have a little bit of that cringe humor that I find so distasteful, but overall it kind of, the rest of the episode evens out for me. So I'd definitely give it a solid 3, high 3, I think.
I'd give this a 1.
Oh, 1. Just a 1 cup of coffee.
Yeah. The scene with Daphne and Bulldog is almost enough to save it from the inescapable pit of despair that is the single cup of coffee. But no, it's not. I can't watch. I really didn't want to watch it. I just wanted to skip over it.
It is quite bad. It is quite bad, especially when you know what's coming. When you know that she's lying about everything. It's so much worse. But you know what? As I say, the rest of the episode is so good that it makes up for it. So there we go. I think that's the first episode we've had quite a difference.
Normally there's a difference of 1 or 2, or just one even. Normally
I don't think we've had a difference of 2 cups before, but there we go. Some discourse in the...
I wonder if we're ever going to reach the point where one of us gives it a 5 and the other gives it a 1.
I don't think so.
I can't imagine there's going to be any episode that's that divisive.
No, I don't think so. I can't think of one that might. We'll see. Say that now, but the next episode is another fantastic one. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's really, really strong episode. You can't tell a crook by his cover. It's great.
It is. I do really like
verbalize.
I like the premise,
how much I love it.
The premise behind it. It's all about. Well, I mean, it gets kicked off because Roz is the victim of a con artist. Just someone pulling a fast one on her when she's on the street, convincing her to give him, I don't know, some money, some cash. It's not nothing, not a significant amount.
Or something.
$10, $20, something like that. And she falls for it, and Frasier and Martin kind of, Well, not criticize her. Well, Frasier criticizes her a little bit about how she was so gullible and fell for this con artist, and Martin kind of defends her and says, well, these guys are professionals, it's what they do.
Yeah.
They're very good at it. Anyone could fall for it. Frasier being very stubborn and convinced that he couldn't possibly be the victim of a con artist, doubles down and they make this bet.
Yeah.
Martin has his 3 poker friends coming over. 2 of them are cops or ex-cops, and 1 of them did time in prison. And Frasier needs to figure out which one.
And he's so confident. He is so confident that Frasier will not get it, that he puts money on it.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows Martin's intelligence. And this is something we touched on before, is that, Martin is played as sort of a, blue collar guy. He's quite, steak and potatoes, very working class kind of guy. Yeah. But he's a clever man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was a detective, the intelligence is there. He likes to sit in front of the TV and drink a beer, but when it comes to it, his intelligence can match Frasier Niles in areas that
a lot of the skills they have, all of the interpersonal skills and picking up on someone's personality from one conversation, and the skills that Frasier and Niles and their mother Hester had as psychiatrists. Martin has the same skills as a detective. But they don't really give him credit for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we see the poker match. Frasier desperately trying to figure out who the con artist could be.
Yeah, much to his own embarrassment.
Of course, because he doesn't get it right.
And predictably, he picks the correct answer last out of all 3 of them.
Yeah. We do have a nice little... well, it's actually... He does appear in a few later episodes as well, but Martin's friend Frank, who is one of the cops, he was an undercover cop, is played by an actor called Ron Dean, who is a cop.
He's in a number of things.
Everything he's in, he plays a cop.
Yep.
He's in The Dark Knight. I think he was in The Fugitive. He's in so many different things, and he always plays a cop or, some kind of similar
law enforcement
authority figure. He was one of the kids' parents in The Breakfast Club.
This sort of
he's always
burly, kind of masculine man, kind of guy. Man's man. Yeah.
So we are introduced to them. We see the little bit. Turns out that what's his name? I've completely forgotten the guy's name. Frank's the cop. Who's the one who? It's not Eddie. Is it Eddie? No, that's the dog. What's the guy's name?
No, there's Frank,
Jimmy,
and
Lorraine, maybe?
No, it's not
Something
Lorraine.
Like that.
Oh God, this is bad. What was her name?
Okay.
There was the female cop. Oh dear. Linda.
I
got it.
That's her name.
Got it in the end.
Fucking
hell.
Yeah.
Frank, Linda, and Jimmy.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was Jimmy who was he was his prison snitch.
Yeah.
And that's how Martin got to know him. And we also find out after they leave that Daphne has agreed to go on a date with Jimmy. Yeah. They were obviously flirting a wee bit while they were playing the poker game, which we kind of see a little bit of, but not the full picture. Turns out they got very close, and they're going out on a date. And Martin sort of, despite his earlier attempts at sort of saying, criminals aren't all criminals, they're not all bad people, he kind of, his true feelings shine through when Daphne's sort of safety, I suppose, is at stake. And he says, no, you can't go on a date with him. He's a criminal. You can't. It's dangerous. And, well, Frasier at first stands up for her as well and says, she can do whatever she likes. Yeah. And Daphne, quite rightly, stands up above both of them and says, neither of you are my parents. Neither of you are, anything other than, well, friends, employees to me. Yeah. Whatever. I can do what I like. It's my life. Yeah. And so she does go out on the date with him. we get a great little encounter with Frasier and Niles in Cafe Nervosa.
Yeah.
Where Frasier mentions to Niles that they're going on the date, and Niles gets immediately very defensive and
very upset
and everything. There's also here, and I know it's something that has always stuck with me. This phrase, the phrase that Frasier says when he mentions to Niles that Daphne's going on the date, and how upset Martin was. And there's a behind the scenes interview with the cast, and David Hyde Pierce alludes to this scene in particular, that Kelsey Grammer read it in such a way that without subtitles you have no idea what they're saying.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you notice it. For the line that Frasier has, that Kelsey Grammer has, is, I almost had to sedate him when Daphne announced that she was going to go out with him.
Okay.
And he says it in such a way that he just kind of strings it along, that David Hyde Pierce is right. If you're not really, really paying attention, or you have subtitles on, you have no idea what he says.
Okay. I'll need to go back and
play it back, but watch that scene again and see if you can hear it, because it's once you know what he says, it's fine. But if you don't know what he's saying, it's just brr, brr, brr.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But it's a funny tidbit. It's a scene that David Hyde Pierce himself has pointed out as one of his favourite scenes, because he has no idea what Kelsey Grammer says. Anyway, the two of them decide to take it upon themselves. After a mention from Eric, the waiter.
Yep.
Eric the Red, the regular waiter at Cafe Nervosa, mentions that the bar that Daphne's going to was shut down by the police.
Yeah.
After a shooting, Frasier and Niles do decide that they want to go and rescue Daphne, which leads to them being thoroughly
out of their depth.
Out of their depth, yeah. And they realise that Daphne's actually more than capable of defending herself and sticking up for herself. She's sitting playing snooker with the lads, and trouncing them all.
Hustling them.
Yeah, basically. But as Frasier and Niles try to leave before they're discovered by Daphne, they accidentally knock into one of the regulars' table, and results in him missing a shot and losing a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Which draws significant attention to them because they're about to get battered.
Yeah.
And Daphne steps in to save them by offering a double or nothing bet on the snooker table, where she has to sink, is it five and then 6 balls in one shot.
Yeah.
Which is
not easy.
Pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And she manages to knock in 5. And there's this great slow motion shot where it pans round all the characters.
Yeah.
And the ball is almost going in, and Frasier and Niles are jumping for joy, and Daphne's excited, and the regular, whoever it is shocked and amazed, and then the ball doesn't go in, and their faces turn upside down. And then it cuts to back from slow motion to Daphne screaming, "Leg it!" And they all run out of the bar. With the money. I don't know if you noticed, they pick up the money as well.
Of course.
Off the table and just bolt, which is just brilliant. I love it. I love that scene. I think it's so good. I think Jane Leeves' performance is great as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Her comedic timing when she's putting the chalk on the cue and just going back and forward with Frasier and Niles, it shows that she's had experience doing the comedy, doing comedic, what do you got? Physical comedy, I suppose. She was on Benny Hill and Monty Python as well. That she's done that kind of humor as well, and it really shows through here. But I love it. I think it's a really good episode. It's one that stands out to me in season 1.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's almost a 5-cupper.
Yeah,
but I think it falls short just a little bit. So I'm going to stick with 4.
Give me about 4.
I'm going to give it a 4 cup of coffee.
Wow.
4 cups of coffee.
I'd give it a 2.
A 2?
This is another one that we're going to have to disagree on a little bit.
Really?
I like Jane Leeve's performance in this, and David Hyde Pierce as Niles always. Yet again, this is another episode where he's not very prominent in the plot, but he really steals all the scenes that he's in. He just has such great lines written for him. You know, my Taekwondo instructor says I'm just 2 moves away from being quite threatening.
Yeah.
As he struggles to get his hands into his jacket. You know, very funny bits in it. But it doesn't really stand out that much to me as being
really. See, I thought this was one of like
one of the high points.
One of the high points of the series, but there you go. There you go. Bit of a sibling disagreement.
Maybe I'm being a bit harsh giving it a 2. I mean, I'm going to stick with it, but maybe it's a bit harsh.
You know, fair enough. If you don't enjoy it, there's not. I think it a couple of the points that really stand out to me are the protectiveness of the Crane family around Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it shows that she is part of the family.
Oh yeah.
To an extent, and that they are very protective of her, and they do love her a lot, and they are caring about her safety. You know, obviously she's a grown woman and can do what she likes.
Yeah.
But they are obviously concerned, which is nice to see. And Daphne as well. You know, her past in the pubs of England, pubs of Manchester. You know, they come back here and show that, you know, she's obviously had a lot of experience drinking, dealing with patrons of that ilk, and playing snooker and everything, which is great. And it's something that comes up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Her past with, you know, snooker and darts and sports and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great. So yeah, you know, I do like it. I do like it a lot. I think it's a really good episode.
Yeah.
2 cups of coffee. Can't believe that. That's the previous one. I could see your reasoning for a bit of a difference. But no, that's no. Okay, fine.
Let's get into it.
So we have a very special guest on the next episode. The next episode being the show where Lilith comes back.
Yeah. Which
is our first appearance of a previous Cheers cast member back in Frasier.
Yeah, something that does happen a few more times.
Which does happen, quite a few more times.
Well, especially with Lilith.
And Lilith, I think appears in every season, at least one episode.
Oh yeah, it must do.
I'm pretty sure. Which is good, and I like that. I like that it ties back, that they don't just forget about Frasier's previous life. They do still have that tie back. The intro's great of this episode. The reveal of Lilith. Frasier's hosting a show as he normally does, and gives some advice to a caller, and then Roz puts through a next call, and it's Lilith who strongly disagrees.
Yep.
Lilith being a psychiatrist herself and having a very different methodology for treating patients.
Yeah.
Which leads to quite a bit of nasty back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see, and you can tell by like the audience applause as well.
Yeah.
That they're very happy to see a previous Cheers cast member come back, and Baby Newworth as
just
Lilith
so
nails it. Nails it.
Such a fantastic. Lilith is probably my favorite character.
Really?
In the whole show.
Really?
That's
a bold statement.
I just love Lilith. She's so funny. The little jokes and quips and the way that she delivers all of her lines in this completely... It's harsh and cold and very cutting. This like monotone voice, but everything she says is so considered and so thought out, and even all the little jabs and the little insults, they're all just, it's like a, you know, rapier wit that she has. It's so fantastic.
It's great. I totally agree. I think she's fantastic. I wouldn't go as far as to say she's my favorite character, but her Baby Newworth's performance is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the character of Lilith is just great. It's such a such an opposite to Frasier.
Yeah.
In his sort of very I don't want to say open, not quite open, but the way he treats his patients is very considerate, and he does respect his patients a lot. For the most part, not everyone.
Yeah.
And he tries to take their feelings into consideration when he's speaking to them, and Lilith just does not.
No.
She's got an opinion, she's got a treatment,
Yep.
so that's what she recommends. She doesn't care at all, and I do love that. I think it's a great contrast between
definitely.
the two. Despite having been married for so long, they do have that friction between the two. So Lilith comes back. She's coming into town for ostensibly a convention.
Yeah.
And they want to meet up for dinner through a bit of intervention by Roz.
Yes.
She convinces Frasier to invite her for dinner. So they come along, and Martin and Niles have a sincere distaste for Lilith. There's that joke, and it's a running joke as well, actually, about Daphne having her psychic headaches whenever Lilith's in town, which is brilliant. She loses all feeling when she shakes Lilith's hand. Loses all feeling in her hand. But Lilith comes over for dinner, and she reveals that the actual reason that she was there was because of a letter she received from Frasier. It doesn't really specify,
a year
but
before.
Well, no, I think it says recently when he was visiting Frederick, so I presume it's within a couple of weeks, month or so. But it turns out it was a letter that had fallen down the back of the cupboard,
dresser or something.
Yeah, and it was actually from 6 months or a year before, of Frasier confessing his love and hoping they could get back together, and being very open and loving and wanting to
fix their relationship.
Yeah, wanting to reconcile. And Lilith, having just read the letter, feels the same way, but unfortunately Frasier has moved on.
Yeah.
And does not feel the same way. He started his new life. He's well on his way to getting comfortable, and doesn't want to go back to his previous life, particularly with Lilith, which embarrasses her, and she leaves, and it's I feel quite sorry for her, to be honest, because it's not her fault that she didn't read the letter in time, and I think if she had, maybe it would have been different. They might have reconciled and got back together, but anyway, Frasier feels a bit guilty, and they go and they have a conversation in a hotel room. And this isn't the last episode where the episode ends with the two of them in a hotel room together.
No, it's not.
Quite a frequent occurrence. Well, not frequent, but in the few times that Lilith is in the show, it happens a fair chunk. Two of them together. And they have a chat. They're supposed to go out for dinner, and they end up sleeping together. And Lilith has obviously made clear that she does want to get back together, but Frasier does not feel the same way, and admits it over breakfast, after mistaking Lilith's words about breakfast to be about their relationship, which is a shame. But
it is a shame.
She obviously opened up quite a lot, and he kind of shuts her down. But if they don't feel that way, then they shouldn't be together. So if they don't both feel strongly about one another, they shouldn't be. So
of course.
So that's how they end it. And Lilith goes back to Boston. Frasier stays in Seattle with his new life, and I think they're on better terms. I think it does bring them a bit closer together, the openness and the honesty between the two, even if it does ultimately end with them not getting back together. There is that sort of ongoing relationship between the two, and Frederick as well, their son, who ties them together. And it's not the episode as a whole, I don't think is particularly funny. I think there's a couple of good little quips throughout, but it's more a sort of character episode between Frasier and Lilith and their relationship, and what has happened since the end of Cheers. Excuse me. It's I don't know how you feel about the episode. What?
I do really enjoy it because I love Lilith so much.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing her in the show. The way that she's characterized in this, the way that she's written in this episode is very different to how she appears in later episodes.
Yeah.
And I think that the version of the character that I like so much is more how she appears later.
Okay.
Her being... Obviously, there's nothing wrong with her being very emotional and talking about how she's kind of struggling as a single mother and...
Quite vulnerable.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the reason that I like her character so much is because she's very kind of emotionless and quite cold and very cutting, and that's what I like so much about the character. So it's strange seeing her in a role like this when you're so used to the way she is later on. But I think overall it's a good episode.
Yeah.
In terms of cups of coffee, I'd give it a 3.
3?
Yeah.
I'd probably agree with you. Yeah. 3 cups of coffee. I'd maybe go on the lower side of a 3 though.
Yeah.
I think I'm not adverse to the more character study episodes, I suppose, but Frasier and Lilith's relationship isn't something that particularly interests me. I think it's something that, as much as I do love Lilith and Baby New Earth in the show, it's something that you could leave with Cheers, and I don't think would have a huge impact on the quality of Frasier, the show.
No.
So there are some good episodes with Lilith, but I wouldn't say that they're particularly necessary. And if you were to have replaced them with an episode about Frasier and Martin, for example, I would have no complaints.
Yeah.
I'd probably prefer that. But yeah, three cups of coffee, I think, is a solid one. In no small part due to Baby Newer's performance.
Oh, definitely.
I think she's just wonderful. I can't sing her praises enough. She's also, I have to say, very attractive.
Yeah.
I noticed in this episode, I don't want to say I never really noticed. I never really considered it much.
Yeah.
When watching before, but being a bit more critical and making notes this time, I did notice that she is a very attractive woman.
Absolutely.
Particularly with her hair down when they meet in the hotel room. I was thinking, oh my.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a decent episode. It's good. And one last thing that I will note about it is there is a line, and I don't know if you noticed it, from Niles with a bit of unintentional foreshadowing, and I won't go into too much detail, but the line is, after there's a bit of hostility between Lilith and Niles due to some jokes that she made about Niles and Maris's wedding vows.
Yeah.
When they're at a wedding, which is, in
They're
fairness,
very funny. Very funny.
Maris's vows were silly.
I would react the same way. I wouldn't be able to contain my laughter.
Yeah. But eventually Lilith does very sarcastically apologize, but Niles takes it anyway, and he makes a little offhanded remark saying, "Next time you're in town, we'll have dinner, just you and me."
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't think about it in that way, but
obviously very unintentional foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And we will we'll revisit it in a few seasons' time.
Mm-hmm.
But no, let's crack on. That was a good episode. We haven't gone into guest calls or anything. I don't know if...
I don't think there's really many in this. We get a quick guest call at the beginning, from, I think it's Robert Klein, who's not someone that I'm particularly... It's a name that I recognise, but I don't think it's someone that whose work I'm very familiar with.
The main guest, obviously, being Baby New Earth as Lilith.
Not Robert Klein, Timothy Leary. I can see it on your screen there.
Timothy Leary.
It was Robert Klein was in one of the earlier ones. He was someone else.
Did you miss Robert Klein?
I did. I missed Robert Klein.
Poor Robert Klein. Oh well.
Anyway, we'll move on.
And we'll move on to an absolute corker of an episode. It's another one that is just absolutely up right at the top of this season for me.
Yeah.
I adore it. I think it's timeless. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
It focuses on Niles, which
always amazing.
Niles-centric episodes, you're always guaranteed a good one. And that's A Midwinter's Night Dream. Midwinter Night's Dream.
Yeah.
I should say. The title alluding to a night between Niles and Daphne.
Yeah.
Daphne having recently kicked up a relationship with Eric the Red, the waiter at Cafe Nervosa that we mentioned a few episodes back. A few Frasier episodes back. Earlier this episode. A few, yeah. about 20 minutes ago, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
She's recently stuck up a relationship. And Niles, conversely, is having a bit of a tough time with Maris. He is trying to spice up the relationship. He makes a horrific mistake in trying to cosplay in the bedroom.
Yep.
Into a bit of role playing. And
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Yep. And Maris runs off on holiday. Leaving him alone and a bit upset and vulnerable. So Daphne offers to help prepare a nice meal, some food and some wine, and welcome Maris back to Seattle. And it's not a reconciliation. It's they're still married. They're not broken up or anything, but just kind of
smooth things over.
Yeah, smooth things over. Yeah. And that is the aforementioned Midwinter Night's Dream.
Yep.
Midwinter Night, I suppose. But it's such a great episode.
It is very funny.
Wonderful. The sort of Niles wanting to be with Daphne, very clear. Well, okay, having such an obvious crush on her.
Yeah.
While simultaneously wanting to impress Maris and strengthen his relationship with her is such a bizarre...
Yeah. This is where we start thinking of the idea that maybe Niles having a bit of a crush on Daphne isn't necessarily because she's great. It's not necessarily because Daphne's attractive and because they have a lot in common, because they don't really. Maybe it's because Niles is feeling a little bit uncomfortable because his relationship with Maris isn't doing so great, and he's kind of projecting that onto someone else. This kind of escapist fantasy that Daphne represents. Although I did mention in our last episode that there was, I'm running this theory as I'm watching these episodes that there is a possibility that Daphne is aware of this crush and that she does feel the same way. She just doesn't realize it. She's kind of subconsciously flirting back and not stringing Niles on, but definitely laying the groundwork. So she starts this relationship with Eric after going to see Niles and help him get set up for this dinner. She reveals that the two of them have actually broken up earlier that day, and she was very upset about it, but she still came to see Niles. She still came to support him, which shows that she cares about him. The two of them wind up getting stuck together because the weather's so bad. Maris isn't showing up, the power goes out. It's the two of them sitting by the fire. It's very romantic.
Daphne getting Maris's old nightie on because her clothes are all wet.
Her clothes are soaked, and she goes to get changed, and she could have worn something. I mean, the whole implication is that Maris is very skinny. She's shorter than Daphne is. Her clothes wouldn't fit, but there's got to be something she could have worn that would have fit.
Put a blanket around you,
and instead she comes down wearing this very... I mean, it's not necessarily revealing, but it's nightwear.
It's a short nightie. It's...
carrying a candelabra, and Niles is playing the piano. It's very almost Edgar Allan Poe, It's, which I do really like so much. And I think there is an element of that. I think there is an element of, Daphne could have worn something else. There were other options.
Yeah.
Maybe she was kind of trying to seduce him. She knows that their relationship isn't great. She knows that that Niles and Maris are having issues, and she knows that Niles feels the same way about Daphne as she's starting to about him.
There are points during the evening where they get very close, like physically very close. It's definitely,
I think this is lending a little bit of credence to my theory.
I think it is as well.
Pick up on this later on.
Yeah,
but it's very good, and there's lots of good jokes.
It's
the two of them.
It's great. It's such a, as I said, Niles-centric episodes are always good. But Niles and Daphne's chemistry is great. Jane Leeves and David Hyde Pierce just nail it from the get-go. Even so early on in the series, just the little quips between them. Niles' crush, Daphne's rebuffance. What's the word?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
When she rebuffs him,
yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
And sort of occasionally calls him out, occasionally ignores it completely. They're always the source of great humor.
Yeah. And
some great jokes. So to have a significant portion of this episode be just solely that, it's fantastic. We've got Frasier and Martin as well sitting at home, who are obviously very aware of Niles' feelings for Daphne, and they feel the need to interrupt, which is just them coming to the aid of young Daphne again.
Yeah.
Worrying that, well, not that she's unsafe, but that, they might do something that they would regret later on, is very funny.
Yeah.
But very, caring and considerate of the two stuck in the big gothic mansion at night.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
They don't make any advance. Well, Niles does actually make a little bit of an advance.
He gets very close.
Gets very close to kissing Daphne. But they ultimately don't. They are saved by a broken glockenspiel, which springs to life.
Yeah.
And reminds Niles of better times with Maris. And they have a nice little chat, and they don't speak explicitly of feelings towards each other or anything like that, but they acknowledge that Niles is happy with his wife, and they don't go any further than that.
Yeah.
But as they're saying this, they have a nice hug and call it a night, and Frasier runs up to the door and bangs on the windows and screaming not to do anything stupid, which is hilarious because they never were.
No,
really. They'd finished up and they were not going to be getting any closer, and Frasier coming in and making an ass of himself is just great.
Always funny.
Kelsey Grammer running into the scene screaming is always great as well.
Always great.
He knows how to make an entrance.
Yeah.
And it ends with the three of them sort of just writing the night off and not really thinking of it anymore. Niles admitting to Frasier that he's happy with Maris and he's not going to make any more advances than Daphne, and the three of them sit by the piano and play.
David Hyde Pierce playing the piano himself, which is very impressive.
Kelsey Grammer as well was a keen pianist, which is I believe I've heard somewhere partially why the two of them got the roles.
Oh yeah, maybe,
or why they were so fondly considered for the roles, because they're both avid musicians. They can both sing, they can both play the piano, and that was aspects they wanted of Frasier and Niles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always wonderful to see the two of them. There's a few piano scenes throughout the series, and it's always great.
Yeah.
It's always great. So yeah, I'm considering whether I want to give the elusive fifth cup.
Crack out the 5.
I don't know. I think I might. I do love this episode.
It is good.
I think it's great.
Good.
It's so funny. I think that the interaction when Niles runs from his roleplay session gone wrong.
Yeah.
In his pirate costume and admitting that he was wearing an eye patch not on his eye,
Yes.
but somewhere else. It's just fantastic.
Having to leave, barely having time to grab his pantaloons and buckle his swash.
Yeah, it's just David Hyde Pierce just nails it. Once again, he
Every
just
time.
nails it. So yeah, I'm gonna go 5.
Giving it a 5.
Full cups of coffee.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
A 4.
I'm gonna give it a 4. It's not a 5 for me. As much as I love it, I think it's maybe just lacking a little something. I don't know if it's maybe lacking a B plot from maybe a better B plot from Frasier and Martin.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Either that or just cut out the whole thing of them rushing to the manor at all, and maybe just getting a little bit more time with the setup of Niles and Daphne.
Yeah.
I think would stretch it to a 5. It's very close to it though. I think this is a tentative 4. It could be.
Okay.
It's close.
Regardless, it's definitely one of the better in the series.
Yes,
it's definitely
certainly one of the
there.
best episodes of the series.
Yeah, easily. Not much more to say than that.
No.
I think I've sung its praises quite enough.
Yep.
And we come to the final episode on the disc, which is "And the Whimper Is ... which focuses on. It's the first mention of it, and it's a running theme, but the first award show.
Yeah.
For Frasier and Roz, working on the Frasier Crane show. Something that comes up consistently for the remainder of
usually once a season or so.
Once a season. It's also serves really well to further that showmanship within Frasier, and how separated he is from psychiatry, and how he is just an entertainer now. He is not. He's a radio personality. He's not really a doctor anymore. Something that Niles continuously
always makes fun of him for.
Makes fun of him, yeah. So Roz and Frasier are nominated for a CB award, a Seattle Broadcaster of the Year award.
Yeah.
Roz's first time in, does she 12 years, I think? 12 years of her role as a producer.
Yeah.
And this is the first time she's been nominated. Frasier, obviously his first year as a radio personality, and he's nominated, which is pretty impressive.
It is, yeah.
Obviously, again, it comes back to that thing of the imbalance between his radio show being a joke and nobody listening, and it actually being very highly regarded, and he is a local celebrity. This is obviously the latter.
Yeah.
In this week's episode, but the episode it's relatively slow. There's not loads of set pieces. They're not in loads of different places really.
Yeah.
They go home, they go to Cafe Nervosa, and then they go to the award show.
Yeah.
And at the award show, they're met with Fletcher Gray.
Yeah.
Who is an older radio personality who's been nominated.
I think they say 11 times.
11 times in a row and never won an award. And their interaction with Frasier and Roz is great. I love that they've got this sort of old, sort of almost mentor-like figure.
Yeah.
Who, in his brief appearance, seems to get through to Frasier quite a bit. And, awards aren't everything. It's the journey. It's
about
an honor
the work
just being nominated.
Doing.
It's all about the work and who you're helping, things like that. We have the other nominees as well, who aren't. They're mentioned quite a few times, but we never actually
don't really see them.
Wendy Yashiro and
Mike
Sanchez. Two other. I don't know if they're at KCL or not. They don't really mention.
I don't think so. I think they're presumably from other studios.
Other stations, yeah. And there's quite a bit of back and forth at the table with all the different interactions between characters. We've got Roz brings Noel Shemsky as her date. She couldn't get her big fancy
It's like a
TV anchor,
weatherman, or is he
a TV weatherman? Yeah,
yeah. Winds up cancelling.
He had to cancel and got called out. So she brings Noel Shempsky. Frasier brings BB Glazer, his agent, after accidentally inviting her.
Yes.
And then we've got Martin and Daphne as well, who join. And the interactions with Fletcher Grey and his elderly mother,
yes,
are great as well. It's just such a great combination of characters, this huge variety, and different attitudes towards the award show as well. And ultimately, neither of them win.
Yeah,
neither Fletcher Grey nor Frasier and Roz. It is Wendy Yashiro and Mike Sanchez who share the award in the end. You're watching the TV show and you expect Frasier to win, and then you kind of get introduced to Fletcher Grey and you're thinking, oh, he's been nominated 11 times, oh, maybe he's going to beat Frasier, and then he doesn't win, and then it's actually the two unexpected ones who come through in the end, which is just it's very well written and great and unique. But I have to say, the episode itself is a little bit boring.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think this is the first time watching episodes like this where I'm really kind of trying to look at it from a really critical standpoint. I think the issue with this is that there really isn't a second act.
Yeah.
You get the setup. I mean, it opens in the radio station. They introduce the idea of the CBs and they're up for a nomination. Then it quickly cuts to Cafe Nervosa. You find out they've got the nomination. There's a couple of minute long scene in Frasier's apartment, which I guess constitutes the second act.
It's just them getting prepared for the dinner,
where they're just talking about the dinner, and they set up this idea that the two other nominees, the ones that wind up winning, have been kind of bribing not necessarily bribing, but
sending
gifts, and they've been putting out adverts to thank them for their nomination, thank the judging committee, and Frasier and Roz kind of buy into the idea of doing it, much to Martin's disapproval, and that doesn't really go anywhere. They mention it once or twice, but it's really just kind of like you've got the setup, and then it immediately goes to the award show, where we get the final act. And it really is kind of, it's a shame that it's missing that, because if we focused a little bit more on the whole kind of bribery thing, maybe if we'd had Frasier winning but then feeling guilty about it, or maybe if Fletcher Grey was the only one that didn't bribe the judging committee and wound up winning anyway, and everyone else looks stupid, maybe that'd have a bit better kind of payoff.
The message is actually Wendy Yashiro and Mike Sanchez did bribe, they did win, so
so yeah, it's kind of missing that. Or maybe instead of that, if we'd had a more of a B plot, maybe
something else,
Niles and Daphne getting up to shenanigans at the award ceremony or something.
I know I completely agree with you.
It's lacking that something, but there are good aspects to it. There are a few good jokes, and I really like John McMartin, who plays Fletcher Grey.
He's good. He's a good job.
He's a good actor.
Great job.
I always think of him as the US ambassador from The Dish.
Oh yeah,
the film The Dish. Another very funny film. He's great in it, and he's just kind of a good kind of class act.
Class act. That's a good way of putting it. His mother as well, I have to say.
Very funny.
Honourable mention to the elderly Fletcher Grey's mother. Who's drinking, what is it, our Pink Ladies, the cocktail that she's drinking.
I don't know what that is. It just looks like a milkshake.
It looks delicious.
It does look nice.
It does look delicious. But she's just what is it she says? It's I really hope he wins this year. It's getting harder and harder to get on that plane. And it's so like, oh
yeah, you feel bad for her,
elderly old lady. But it's cute, and it's nice to see that Fletcher's still bringing her to the award shows and stuff. Again, class act.
Yes, yeah,
you're exactly right. But no, it's a decent episode, but it's probably on the lower end of the scale.
Yeah,
I would say so. I'm gonna go with a two cupper.
I'll agree with you there. I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I never really thought of much about you saying the missing the second act, but you're spot on with that.
Yeah.
It does kind of jump quite quickly to the resolution of the story, and it doesn't really have any meaningful payoff.
Yeah.
Other than don't get your hopes up,
yeah.
I guess.
they set it up, it doesn't go anywhere, and then Martin has this one kind of throwaway line before he leaves saying, I don't agree with the way you went about it, but it's still a shame you lost. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like they forgot that was a thing they were doing, and then they just kind of like shoehorn in one or two lines at the end, and then
yeah, that's a shame.
Wrap it up.
Especially as we're coming towards the end of the series.
Yeah.
We're hoping for... Well, to be fair...
The last disc is great.
The next disc is an absolute cracker.
But we'll get to that next week.
Yes. Yes, we shall. Before we round off this week, highlight and a low light?
Oh, I don't know. Low light for me, I'm probably just going to have to give it to Just Can't Buy Me Love. Not the whole episode, but basically just... Anytime Frasier is on screen, the whole plot of him with Christina and with the daughter,
yeah,
I just can't watch it.
I
can't do it.
Yep.
Highlight for me, probably. There's a scene in Midwinter Night's Dream when Niles is at the piano. Daphne's arrived, she's all wet, she goes up to get changed, the scene cuts away and it cuts back again. Niles is playing at the piano and Daphne walks down the stairs in this nightwear, holding a candle, and it's very, like I say, very gothic, very kind of Vincent Price, and Niles gets immediately distracted while playing the piano, and just his little, the way he does it, kind of slamming down on the keys,
the physical comedy,
trying to recover. It's very very funny.
I agree. A little ding when he hits the keys after he fumbles. Yeah, yes. It's excellent.
That's got to be the highlight for me.
I was actually going to say the same for a highlight. Was that not that particular bit, but that whole section from A Midwinter Night's Dream, in Niles and Maris mansion is wonderful. Just between Niles and Daphne. And rain outside, the piano, the fireplace, the nightie, as Frasier says. It's great. It's just some great performances, and that reveals a little bit more of Frasier, of Niles and Daphne's relationship, and what are their intentions with each other, kind of thing, which is good. In terms of low light, I'd almost go the same as you, to be honest. The scenes with Christina's daughter in Can't Buy Me Love. I'm trying to think if there's another. I want to try and vary it a wee bit, but that's probably what I would say as well. I don't know. Yeah, I think so. That, or the sort of general overarching plot in And the Whimper Is, the sort of general boring award nomination-y plot line from that episode is just sort of doesn't really go anywhere, doesn't really mean anything. There are later episodes surrounding the CBs and the awards that are much better and do a much funnier job.
The next time we get a CBs award show in season 2, they have a much more interesting plot. They managed to tie it into something, I mean, a little bit more out there, but it's
pretty mad.
It's much funnier, and they really managed to do something with it, which they don't. It's a very standard, it's an award show, who's going to win? It's not who you thought.
This one's just kind of bog standard, really, which is disappointing for a show like Frasier. We want and expect better writing, I think. But anyway, okay, there we go. Highlight and low light of disc 3 of season 1. Coming up on, I would arguably say the best disc of a good percentage of the entire show. Yeah,
very possibly.
It's a very, very solid disc.
Not to give away too much, but I think the best episode of the whole show is on this disc.
I would not argue with that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. But that's
That's
for
one
next
for
week.
next
So yeah, we will be back next week with disc 4, the final disc of season 1. Some great episodes on there. Good stuff to talk about. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Plenty of variation in the episodes.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to that. But yes, thank you for listening. I need to get the order right on the sign off. I need to say have a great day and good mental health, and then I need to say and thanks for listening. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Or the other way around?
I think the other way around.
Other way around. So thanks for listening. Have a great day and good mental health. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Roll credits. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram @HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.